when we get into talking about, how do you vote on a committee's recommendation, uh, the valuable input that comes from my staff, the ability to sit down and talk to me about what happened in the committee and what the discussion points were, it really helps me make a decision. And so I want to thank my staff for, I think, making me a better educated and better council member. And I want to thank the fifth floor staff for the amazing work that they do. You really crystallize issues for us when we get into the budget discussions in the committee, and I really appreciated the work that you've done this year and frankly that you've done every year. And I want to thank the council for generally tempering our desires. We've been doing this for a number of years ago. At first it seemed like it was an economic collapse that we didn't control, and now it's an economic recovery that didn't materialize, but the council has generally worked pretty well within the constraints, and other than probably one flashpoint which is out there, we work really well on the other issues, and I think we share a pretty common social agenda, which makes it easier, I think, to get to yes on many of these issues. This budget really is a hold the line budget. I'd like to say it was great, but we're really limited to what new initiatives we can take on, and there are things that we know we'd like to do, that probably all of us would like to do, we just can't do. At the same time, there are no dire cuts in this budget, and there are some modest improvements. And I chair the Public Safety Committee, and I'm grateful that we're able to maintain a decent level of support over there, and that we continue to expand services where they're needed. We have a world-class jail, which is a weird thing to say, but it's true. And we probably do more to rehabilitate people and make sure that when they leave our prison system that they go back out and can get to work and be reintegrated into the community. And that is no small achievement, and you'd be hard put to find many systems around the country that are able to do that. I appreciated we were able to achieve the MOE funding in the Education Committee. And I regret, I think the one thing in all this is that we're going to look at another year of class size increases. And I do think that we're going to have to tackle that. The class sizes cannot continue to increase. We have to figure out how we're going to wrestle that into some reasonable proportion. I think we did a good job of putting people into place to enforce some of our initiatives. And the child care initiative, the living wage legislation that Nancy put forward, and Roger's energy steps to make us more energy efficient. I noticed there was this article which didn't reflect well on us the other day about enforcement. And the comment was made that lots of jurisdictions make laws and then don't provide the means to enforce it. Well, in these three areas, we've provided people to actually make possible what we said we intended to do. And that's big, because saying what we intend to do is cheap. Making the commitment to put the people in place to do that costs money, and this council was willing to back up what it said it intended to do with a commitment to actually fund those things. We added support for childcare, which I think was very important. I was very happy to see some money going into the publicly funded campaigns, and I think that was enough to move us forward. I'm very happy to say we can add hours to libraries and to our rec centers. These are departments that took enormous hits during the recession and are still recovering from what they got hit with in the recession. So it's good to see that there's funding being restored there. So I hope that my colleagues have a lovely trip to New York, and and that the bond rating agencies will be pleased that we exercise discipline that apparently makes them happy, and that's a good thing. I hope that there's a little better news in the budget next year, because I do think we have, and as the executive said, really major challenges in the year coming up, and we're going to need some sign of recovery, and we're going to need a lot of will to be able to deal with that. But this has been, I thought, a relatively easy budget for most of us. I mean, in the years I've been here, this is one of the easier in terms of putting together what we can do. And I do attribute much of that to constraints, because that makes all of us realists. So thank you all for everything you did, and I think a really strong cooperative effort among everyone.